Hey, hi, and welcome to another installment of Math Basics with Mr. Besh. Today we talk about the magical triangle. What this does is give students an alternative to what we did the other day in our lesson. The other day we took an English question about percents, we converted it into an equation, and then we solved the equation for the missing variable. Sometimes students have trouble solving these equations, and what they do is they find the magic triangle, an easier variation to do the same exact problem. Sometimes they think they're not solving an equations, but in reality you are. When you use the magical triangle, you're solving equations using picture examples, and this benefits the visual learner. Now think back at what we did on the last lesson. Think back at what we did. You took a question about percents, and you broke it down. Every one of those had two numerical values inside there, and your job was to find the third numerical value. Look at this. You've got three letters in this triangle, P, R, and B. Believe it or not, the numerical values in the question represent these P, R, and B. And the one that isn't there in the question is the one you're trying to find. What you have to do is take these values and substitute them in for the following letters, and then either multiply or divide at the end. When you do that, you get your answer as follows. Now, the first thing I want to do is explain to you how you identify the differences between P, R, and B. First is P. P's the number next to the word is in the sentence, in that question. Now note that it's not the percent, all right? If sometimes there's a number next to the word is, and if there's a number next to the word is, you put it in the top of the triangle where the letter P represents. Remember, it's not the percent. The second one we're talking about is the B. This is the number next to the word of. Sometimes when you're reading this question, there's a number next to the word of. Notice again, it's not the percent. And if there is a number next to the word of, you take the number and you put it in place of the triangle where the letter B goes. And last but not least, we have an R. Now this is the percent or the fraction. We need to convert this into a decimal. Remember, the other day when we did the questions, the first thing I did was I said, read the question. If they give us a percent, we need to immediately make that a decimal. And we do the same exact thing here. If there is a percent or a fraction, and notice I added fraction this time. If there's a percent or a fraction, the first thing I need to do is make it a decimal. And then what I need to do is I need to put it in the place of R on the triangle down there in the lower left-hand side. Okay? So now here's what our problems look like. And I'm going to use some of the ones from the worksheet we did the other day. What is 2% of 60? So the first thing I do is take a look at the two values they give me in the problem. 2% and 60. I need to then identify whether they are P, R, and B, and then put it in the corresponding spot in my triangle. The letter that's left over is the letter I'm trying to find. And then that's it. That's how I get my answer. So now the first thing I look at, I see 2%. 2% is obviously needs to be converted into a decimal. So I need to take 2% divided by 100 and make that 0.2. And this is going to go in place of R. The next thing I notice is I notice a number, 60, next to the word of that's not a percent. This number goes in place of B. So then I go into my triangle and I put them in as follows. 0.02 goes in for R, then 60 goes in place of B. The number I don't know is P, and that's what I'm trying to find. Now, here's the trick in the magic triangle. If the two numbers are on the bottom side by side, you just simply multiply them together, and boom, you get your answer and you're done. If the numbers were on one on top in the P place, and then one on the bottom, either R or B, you just simply take the top number divided by the bottom number. So if they're side by side, you multiply, and if one's on top and one's on the bottom, you simply divide. That's how we get our answers. We just need to identify where these things go inside my pyramid. So then as you can see, we're going to be taking 0.02 times 60, and when we do that, we get 1.2. This is the value of P, and this is what I'm trying to find. That's all you have to do. I pull up another example. 4 is what percent of 200? I check out my numbers. 4 is next to the word is. That means it goes in place of P. 200 is next to the word of. That means it goes in place of B. So then I pull out my triangle, and they go in exactly like this. So now because I have a number on top and a number on the bottom, I divide. So then all I take is 4 divided by 200, and what I get is 0.02. But notice the question is asking you, 4 is what percent of 200? And 0.02 is not a percent. It's a decimal. So you have to remember that I need to take that decimal value and multiply it by 100. So my answer to the problem comes out to be 2%. Check out another one. Here's one with a fraction. Remember, if there's a decimal, if there's a percent or a fraction involved in the problem, I need to make it a decimal. And then after that, I put it in place of R. So 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25, and it goes in place of R. Then 110 is next to the word of, so that goes in place of B. And this is what I have. And when they're side by side like this is telling me to multiply. So 0.25 multiplied by 110 gives us our value, which is 27.5. And this is P. This comes out to be my missing value. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is my magical triangle. I hope you found this lesson both helpful and informative.